Welcome back to the official Thompson Resume Writing Company YouTube channel, where I share weekly tips and hints on how to update, refresh, and or prepare your resume and LinkedIn profile for your job search, along with some career advice, some job search tips, and some personal stories of my own. I am Tamika Thompson. I am the owner and resume writer at Thompson Resume Writing Company, and I specialize in transforming bland, lackluster resumes and LinkedIn profiles into powerful selling tools that help corporate mid-level, management, and executive professionals land interviews 2 times faster in their job search, and ultimately helping them make more money over the course of their careers. If you are new to my channel, welcome, and I'm so happy that you're here. I would love it if you joined my growing YouTube community by hitting the subscribe button below. If you are a returning subscriber watching this video, thanks so much for staying in tune with my uploads. Now for this video, we are going to be talking all about hiring freezes, what they are, why companies do them, and what to do if you happen to encounter a hiring freeze or hiring freeze related issue as you're going through the interview process. Let's get right into it. So at the time of this video being recorded, there have been many companies who have come out, large companies at that, announcing that they are instituting a hiring freeze effective immediately. Now, some companies who are doing this include Meta, aka Facebook, Google, Amazon, Lyft, and a slew of others. But for those of you who may not be familiar with what a hiring freeze is, or you've never experienced one before, that is where I come in. So I figured now is as good a time as any to go ahead and dive into this topic. And although the term hiring freeze may be self-explanatory and it may seem super simple, there's a little bit more to it than that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get all into hiring freezes. The definition of a hiring freeze is just as it sounds. So it means that a company or an organization may be putting a temporary or a permanent hold on filling any new positions in the company for the foreseeable future. So if there are any available positions online at the time that the hiring freeze is announced, then they may be taken down, and you may not see any new positions posted to the company's website for a while. And if there happen to be any jobs already up on the company's website at the time of the hiring freeze announcement, then those jobs will more than likely either be taken down, or if you apply to them, you may get an automatic email response letting you know that they're currently not hiring for this position or any position at this time, and it may include some information on when they may be hiring for that position again or hiring overall. But hopefully once the hiring freeze is announced, they go ahead and take all of those positions down so that job seekers aren't applying to them, especially if they're not seriously or hiring at all for them. Now let's go ahead and talk about how a hiring freeze announcement may impact you as a job seeker, especially if you're going through the interview process. So number one is if you are, let's say you're on the second or the third round of the interview, going for a position that was currently or is currently available. After that hiring freeze is announced, you will probably get either an email or a phone call directly from the recruiter letting you know that a hiring freeze has been announced, and unfortunately they will not be moving forward with filling the role. That does not mean that they went with someone else. I know some people will get, oh, they went with somebody else and they decided not to choose me. They could have just said that. No, boo. They are not hiring anybody. So they'll formally let you know that the company has announced a hiring freeze and that they're no longer moving forward with filling this position. They may provide you with some information on when they may be looking to fill this position again, but there's no guarantee. Another way this may impact you, and unfortunately I have seen this happen so many times and I hate it because it is like so crushing, and it's one of my biggest fears. Let me knock on wood that this never happens to me. But what will happen is that if a hiring freeze is announced and a person has already accepted an offer and maybe their start date is in a couple of weeks or a month or so, that could mean that you may be getting a dreaded email from the recruiter or an automated response email from the company just saying, you know, hey, so-and-so, at this time we will not be moving forward with bringing you on board for this position, and the offer letter or the acceptance letter is no longer valid. So your start date will be pulled, and you will not be starting there at all. Yes, that does mean that you have to start job searching all over again. And I hate when that happens. I think there was a post that went viral on LinkedIn last year. A woman had interviewed for this position at Facebook, and it was a coveted role. And as soon as she accepted the position, I want to say like maybe a week later or 2 weeks later, a hiring freeze was announced. And, you know, she had turned down all her other offers, and she was so excited to get started. And when they announced the freeze, she was without a job. And so, you know, she kind of posted on LinkedIn that she was back in the job market and she was getting ready to start interviewing again, and if anybody had any recommendation. And that sucks. Like, I hate that for her, and I hate that for anybody who that has happened to. And finally, a way that this can impact you is if you have recently applied to a job posting, so you're not interviewing yet, you haven't accepted an offer letter just yet, but you simply applied to the job. If you applied to that job shortly after that hiring freeze was announced, again, you may just be getting an automated reply or a direct response from the recruiter just letting you know, hey, you know, unfortunately we're having a hiring freeze and we won't be filling this position in the near future or for the foreseeable future, or whatever the case may be. Now, either of these circumstances, again, completely out of your control, and I understand how frustrating they can be. So a question that you may have is, why the heck do companies do hiring freezes? So first thing first is to keep costs down. Think about it. The more people, the more new people that they bring on board, that's new salaries, that's new debt, that's new money that's going out the window, that's new money that's being spent. So if they were originally going to hire 50 managers and each manager's salary was, let's say, $100,000. I'm not the best at math, but that's like $500,000 or something like that. So if the company is not doing well, why would they bring on like almost $500,000 or maybe even more than $1 million in new costs when things may not be going well and they don't have the money to spend like that, right? So number one is either cutting costs or keeping costs down. They're managing what they have right now, or trying to manage it the best that they can without having layoffs as it is, and bringing on board new people is not going to help the situation. Another reason, kind of piggybacking off of that last reason, is to avoid laying off staff. So if they bring on new people and they can't really afford it, that means that they may have to cut some current members of their staff, and no company, I hope, really wants to do that. So why cut existing people who may be already doing well, have already been with the company, versus hiring somebody new? It just doesn't make any sense. So to avoid having layoffs, some companies will institute a hiring freeze so that they can retain their existing work staff without laying anybody off. Another reason is if the company in general is just not doing well. So kind of how I mentioned at the start, or the very first point, was to cut costs. Costs and performance are like completely tied. They go hand in hand. And if the company is not performing well, if sales are not good, if performance is not good, investors aren't happy, whatever it is, then of course they are not going to bring anybody on board if they're already struggling. And last but not least, I feel like this is a given, but the economy. So the economy is directly tied to sales and performance and how the company is doing. So if it's a store and people are just not shopping as much as they used to, they're not spending as much as they used to, that impacts sales, that impacts talent management, that impacts salaries. It's like a ripple effect. And so all of those reasons that I just listed are key reasons why employers may not be bringing anybody on board. At this point, you may be wondering, okay, Tamika, well, how long do hiring freezes last? And that is a tricky question. Now, sometimes hiring freezes can be temporary, meaning they'll last between maybe 3 to 4 months. Sometimes they can last between 6 months to 8 months. And sometimes hiring freezes can last as long as a year. Yes, a whole year without a company bringing anybody on board. It sounds crazy, but it is not impossible. It really just depends what is the reason or what is the goal for the company having this freeze, and can that goal be achieved within that time frame. So if the goal is to cut costs and to save money and to avoid laying off people, of course it makes sense to not bring anybody else new on board, because that's new debt, that's new spending, that's new costs, right? And that's what they're trying to avoid. But within the next year, if they can get sales back to normal, and if they can get the company performance back to normal, and numbers are going back up and they're going to what they either was supposed to be before the slump or before the downward turn, or maybe there's a particular goal that they have in mind, then of course they can go ahead and start bringing people back into the company or start hiring people again. When a hiring freeze is lifted, though, there will be some sort of an announcement. So if you did go ahead and accept an offer, if you went ahead and applied to a job, if you were going through the interview process and a hiring freeze kind of interrupted all of that, once they start hiring again, you may get an email either from the recruiter or just an automated system generated email letting you know that the hiring freeze has been listed. They may still be interested in you as a candidate and encourage you to either reapply or put you in touch with somebody or put something on your calendar, ask you for another interview. If you were already going through the process or again accepted an offer, you will get some sort of direct communication. The key is to make sure that you just be on the lookout in your inbox, and if you are an applicant who had applied already, then you may want to subscribe to get some sort of job alerts or career talent alerts, whatever they like to call them, talent alerts or whatever, that can let you know when the hiring freeze has been lifted. It is important to note, though, that sometimes once a hiring freeze is announced, it has not been determined just yet when the hiring freeze is going to be lifted. It may just let you know, hey, a hiring freeze maybe has just been announced, and you may, have questions like, okay, oh, well, when do you expect to hire? They may not have that information right then and there. So sometimes that information comes a little bit later on down the road. The key, if you're really interested in working for the company or in the position or whatever, is to keep an eye out in your email. Now that we've covered all of that, now we want to go ahead and talk about what to do if you happen to encounter or experience a hiring freeze. Number one is to be kind and to be understanding, especially if you're working with a recruiter. Hiring freezes are stressful, and it can be a sign that the company may be going through a lot of things that in turn may be putting a lot of work and a lot of stress on the recruiter or the hiring manager. So please be kind, please be understanding. Don't say anything nasty or say anything mean or lose your cool, because remember, it's not like they're putting the freeze. It's coming from, the higher ups. It really has nothing to do with them. Furthermore, if you say anything mean or nasty or just completely just like blow a fuse, then that tarnishes your brand, and when the hiring freeze is lifted, they're probably not going to reach out to you. So be kind, be understanding, be nice. It's out of your control. It sucks, but there's no reason to just go off on the recruiter. Next is to make sure that you reply with something. So if you get an email saying that the company is instituting a hiring freeze, don't just ignore it. Still reply and say, thank you for your time. Thanks for your consideration. I hope to hear something in the future once the freeze is lifted. I would still be very interested in working for this company, and so on and so forth. Don't ignore it. Make sure that you say something back. Again, just make sure that you're being kind. And then next, keep interviewing. I talked in another video on my channel that I posted on the importance of making sure that you line up multiple offers and making sure that you don't get too gung-ho or too set on one job in particular that you stop applying and you stop interviewing altogether. That should never be the case. This way, if this job says that they're having a hiring freeze, okay, well, you still have 6 or 7 interviews lined up. Like, keep the ball rolling, keep going until, I really want to say until you officially start, because I have had offer letters that have fallen through for one reason or another, and unfortunately that left me without a job, and I had to kind of start the interview process all over again. So until you start that job, and I almost want to say, like, keep applying 30 days up until 30 days after you started a new job, just to make sure that you like it and just to make sure that it's not toxic, just to be sure. But just because you got an offer letter or just because an interview went really well, please do not abandon your job search strategy completely, because you never know what can happen. So that is everything that you need to know about hiring freezes, what to do if you encounter one, what are they, and so on and so forth. I hope that you found this video helpful. If you did, go ahead and comment down below something that you learned or something that you didn't know that you discovered watching this video, or if I explained it in a way that made it easier for you to understand if you didn't know what it was, or maybe you heard of it and wasn't exactly clear on what exactly it was. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you made it to the end of this video. Feel free to go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Go ahead and give me a like down below. If you are in need of a resume for your job search, or if you experienced a hiring freeze or anything at all, I mean, heck, if you just need a resume, feel free to reach out to me. My email address is hello@thompsonresumes.com. My website is www.thompsonresumes.com, and you can also connect with me on social media. So my LinkedIn profile name is Tamika Thompson, just as it's spelled in my YouTube channel name, and my Instagram handle is @_Mika Thompson. I also have an email newsletter that you can subscribe to, and the description box is in the link, or the link is in the description box below. If you have any other questions surrounding hiring freezes that I can answer for you, go ahead and drop them in the comments and I'll be sure to reply. But again, thank you for watching, and I will see you all next week with another helpful resume, job search, career video. Bye, you guys.